So anyway, this is our review for the Chapter 5 quiz. Just checking to make sure my board's oriented, and we're ready to go. So if you didn't get a copy of this yesterday, they're on the back table. You probably want one. It's also a good time to put your phones away, make sure they're not sitting in your lap, playing with your iPhone. I understand the temptation. All right, so just going over this stuff. A lot of these problems are like a little bit of puzzle solving, things like that. So we do have a little bit of work to do. I think I missed some marks on this one, didn't I? Yes, two congruent sides. Yes, I did. Okay. So one thing we do have is we have this. Those two sides are congruent. So this is kind of a tricky problem to start us off, because there's a couple different things going on here. First off, we have an isosceles triangle. And since we have an isosceles triangle and these two sides are congruent, I know that the base angles opposite them must also be congruent. Okay? So that means that this angle right here is also 3x plus 20. Okay? That's kind of important, because we can't do the problem unless we know that. So that was the first important thing that you need to get out of this first problem. Like I said, it kind of started on a tough level. Once we know that, however, once we know that, now I can just solve my triangle. I have 3x plus 20 plus 3x plus 20 plus 4x together all has to equal what? 180. So that's 6, that's 10x plus 40 is 180. Subtract the 40. 10x equals 140, so x clearly equals 14. I think we can figure that much out. Because once we get those things set up, then it's the three angles of the triangle add up to 180 and we're good. That's fine, but it also wanted me to find the measure of an exterior angle here. The second question there was, what's the measure of the exterior angle right here? In order to do that, there are two different ways I could do that. The easiest way is probably to find the measure of this angle right here, and then they add up to 180, right? So this angle right here would be, hold on, there we go. So this angle right here would be 3 times 14 plus 20, which is 42 plus 20, or 62 degrees. That's this angle. So this angle y must be 180 minus 62. Or 118 degrees. So now we found the value of x and y. But like I said, these problems can be kind of like puzzles, in that a lot of times it's not just one step answer, or set up one equation and you're done. Sometimes you have to go through several steps to get where you're going. But that's the way they work. Okay. Let's take a look at this one. This one is actually a little more straightforward, but from an algebra standpoint, just a little bit trickier, because I'm going to have a distributive property to work with. And a lot of people are tending to leave off that distributive property. So I'm going with the skinnier pencil because I think it's just looks nicer with the big expanded screen. The big fat pencil just doesn't look so nice. So how am I going to set this up to solve for x? Come on, give me a strategy here. Yeah. 90 is 180. Yeah. But now we got some algebra to do, definitely, don't we? But again, if this is the quiz of the test, show me that. Show me the setup. If you got the setup correct and you just make an algebra mistake, you're going to get a good chunk of the points. Because you're showing me you understand the geometry concept that we're working on, and that's what we're really concerned about. So it's 90 plus 6x minus 12 plus 3x minus 14 equals 180. Oh, so I have 6x and 3x. That gives me a total of 9x. I have 90 minus 12 is 78. Minus 14 is 68, 64. So combining terms, I can simplify that down a little bit. And then we just do, I get 9x equals, what is that, 116? And 116 divided by 9 is not even, is it? Oh, what did I do? No, that's right. I don't think that comes out to an even number, does it? Because 90 and 26, just a little bit less than 13. Yeah, 12 and 8/9. So that didn't come out to a super nice number, but that's okay. Twelve and 8/9 are 12.888. Repeating. Okay. Or you could just leave it at 116/9. That'd be okay too. That makes finding y a little bit trickier just because it didn't come up with a nice number. But what probably happened here is when we made the review sheet, we didn't check the answer so closely. We just threw an equation in there, and so it didn't come up with a nice number on the test. It probably is going to give you a nice number. Is that, do I have the correct variables in here? Someone double check me. Was this 2 times 3x plus 6? No. That's 2 times 3x minus 6, sorry. And this is 3x minus 14? Okay, and that's 90? Okay. Well, that's how it comes out then. Okay, because literally I took the review sheet and I turned it into a smartboard. So if I copied something over wrong, you got to let me know so we do the right problem. Finding y then is going to be the same thing that we did before. We could find the measure of this angle, and then y be 180 minus that, so that'd be 3 times 116/9 minus 14 is that angle. Again, this is a more algebraically complex than something you'll have to do on the test. I don't think you have to deal with the fraction there. But if we did, I'd reduce that, so it'd be 116 thirds minus 14. 14 is, how many thirds? It's 42 thirds. Converting that fraction, a whole number to a fraction. 116 minus 42 is 76, 74 thirds. Is that angle. And so then this y would be 180 minus 74 thirds. And 180 is 540 thirds. Is 474 66 thirds. I'm sure you've probably noticed I work in fractions and not in decimals. Why would I do that? Why wouldn't I just decimalize that 12.9 and go from there? Yeah. Yeah. Because 12.9 is an approximation, whereas 116/9 is the exact value. And what you'll find is as you go on in math, probably for what we're doing in geometry, the approximation would have been fine. Okay, and if you do run into a problem like this in the test, you can round to the nearest tenth, and I'll be fine with that, and we can work with it from there. But I show you this using fractions because the higher you go on in math, the more accuracy becomes an issue. And with a fraction, we are completely accurate. Okay, we've lost absolutely zero accuracy. That is the exact answer is 466/3. Okay, it's not an approximation, it's the exact answer. So that's one reason why we tend to work in fractions more the higher up we get in math, because we can have precision that way. And precision matters. This is an interesting one. This employs the exterior angle theorem. And you'll recall the exterior angle theorem says this: for every triangle, there's, okay, if I have an exterior angle here, which I'll call x, the exterior angle is always the sum of the remote interior angles. That's one of the theorems we had. Okay? The measure of an exterior is always the sum of the remote interiors. And I did the proof for that for you in the podcast, I think in 5.2. You may or may not remember that. But I can do, it's a really simple proof, so I can do it again, okay? I'm going to call this angle here C. I save that one. Okay, good. Okay, and it's a pretty simple proof. A plus B plus C equals 180, right? Everyone agrees with that? And X plus C equals 180. They're a linear pair. Everyone agrees with that, right? That's obvious. Since they both equal 180, A plus B plus C equals X plus C, because they both equal 180. What do they have in common? A C. So if we subtract the C from both sides, I get A plus B equals X. That's the exterior angle theorem. Okay? So there we have it again. It's a pretty straightforward one, why that works. So given that fact, now we can very quickly move into working with that. Interesting. Okay, so what do? Is we simply do X plus 15. Why is that not going to the skinny pencil? Skinny. X plus 15 plus 6x minus 26 has to equal 5x plus 7. And again, we just do our algebra. So 7x minus 11 equals 5x plus 7. Subtract the 5x. Add the 11. I get 2x equals 18, so x equals 9. So that's the exterior angle theorem. And could we have applied that here on the previous problems? Yeah, I mean, I could have said 4x plus 3x plus 3x plus 20 equals y. I could have done it there. But it's just that here, it was so easy just to find this angle and subtract from 180. That was easier. Here, the only choice I had was exterior angles theorem. Because I didn't know that third angle of the triangle. I didn't know if it was a right angle or anything else. So I have to go with exterior angles theorem. So you can expect that to be showing up on your quiz. Complete the statements. Took a long time to draw these stinking things. But it should be pretty straightforward. Angle B is congruent to what? F. Now, if you just wrote F down without the angle symbol, is that correct? No. If you just said F, you said angle B is congruent to point F. You need the angle symbol. I don't need a three-letter name for that angle because there is only one angle F in that picture. Segment EF corresponds to segment AB. And again, segment symbol AB. I did not draw the picture for the next one because I'm tired of drawing pictures. It takes forever. But I did give you the given, which should be all you need, because the given, one of the points I wanted to make here is that since the given is in corresponding order, I don't need a picture to make my conclusions. Yx corresponds to, well, where's Yx here? Yx is these two, so that corresponds to what? CB. Just from the congruent statement itself, without even needing a picture, I can make that conclusion. And triangle ABC would therefore correspond to triangle ABC. ABC would correspond to WXY. Okay? The statements have to be in corresponding order. The picture is not even necessary. In fact, sometimes the picture just confuses the matter. If you get the statement, you're often better off not even looking at the picture, just going with the statement if it's just asking for corresponding parts, because the statement has to be in corresponding order. That's going to become really important when we start doing proofs in the second half of the chapter, because now it's important that when you make congruent statements, you put them in corresponding order. Okay, triangle ABC congruent to triangle XYZ is not the same as triangle ABC congruent to triangle ZYX. XYZ and ZYX may be the same triangle, but the order is different, and order matters when it comes to congruent statements. All right, I did get this picture in. If PN is congruent to MN, then angle congruent to angle. Now, this is straight out of your homework from yesterday. So there's nothing new here. This is pretty much straight out of your homework. Things to pay attention to when you're doing these problems. If these are Isosceles triangles theorem, congruent segments give me congruent angles. And notice that the angle symbol is written in for you, right? So that should be a hint that we're going to name angles, shouldn't it? Okay, so I'm giving you hints, I'm giving you clues here. You just got to follow through, and you got to be specific with your angles. Now, PN congruent to MN. Let's find that. PN congruent to MN. Those are my congruent parts. So that is congruent to that. What does that mean? It means the angles opposite those have to be congruent. Whoops, I'm sorry. What did I just do there? There we go. Try again. There are the angles across from the sides. Okay? So what are the congruent angles? We can't just say angle P and angle M because there are multiple angle P's and angle M's. So I have to be careful. How could I name this angle to be specific? LPN? That wouldn't be right, would it? MPN. Okay? This angle is MPN, right there. And this angle is PMN. Or NMP would work as well. But I couldn't say LPM. That would be the wrong angle altogether. LPM is not a part of that triangle, is it? Okay? So you got to study the picture. You got to see what's going on there. Similarly, congruent angles give us opposite segments being congruent. I keep trying to get this to save. It just doesn't seem to want to. Okay? Congruent angles should give me congruent segments. So NMO, angle NMO, is congruent to angle NOM. So where are the segments that must be congruent? Well, they must be the opposite sides. And very clearly now I can see the opposite sides are NO and NM. And they are segments, so we need to label them properly. Finally, PL and ML. Again, this time they give us congruent segments, so we're looking for congruent angles. So PL and ML are my congruent segments. You know, it doesn't look like it from the picture. We'll go with it since that's what we're told, which means the angles opposite them must be congruent. So that'd be angle LPM. And since the angle symbol's already there, we're safe. And angle, what's the other opposite angle? LMP. All right. That's something people kind of struggled with yesterday at first. But is it making some more sense now? Okay. For people who haven't done the assignment yet or haven't watched the podcast yet, yeah, you're probably like, what the heck? But that's something you need to be taken care of. All right. Let's go here. Given triangle ABE congruent to triangle DBC, find the value of X and Y. Well, what do you want to go for first? Do you want to go for the Y's or do you want to go for the X? Y? Okay. Something's not right here. Can I take a look at someone's picture quick? Yeah, but something's impossible here. No, it is. Because if AB, then angle E has to be congruent to angle C. One of them can't be 28 and the other one can't be 33. So let's get rid of this 28, okay? I'm going to take... You want me to get rid of 33 instead?
Yeah, because 28 is a new number.
Okay. So we're just going to cross out that 33. Okay? Because if they're congruent triangles, one can't be 28 and one can't, and the other one 33. That doesn't work, does it? If they're congruent triangles, all their corresponding parts have to be congruent. All right? So, I think what meant to happen here is the 33, you know what, I think it's supposed to be here. So let's just slide that down. That's going to make, that'll make life easier. That makes it make much more sense. So there was a drawing error in the picture. I apologize for that. Okay? But let's see what we can do. Well, fine. If this angle's 28, then this angle also has to be 28. And this angle's 33. And what do you know about the three angles of this triangle? They'll have 180. So X has to be, so I have to take 180 minus 28 minus 33. Right? So 180 minus 28 is 160, 152, 122, 119. All right, pretty straightforward. How about for y? What can I do with y? What can I do with y? Yeah. Sure. Because these markings are telling us that those are congruent sides, right? So 4y minus 9 equals 2y minus 13. And now we just do our algebra. I get 2y equals negative 4, so y equals negative 2. Now, is that okay? Sure it is, because actually, again, bad numbers, because that would give us negative length, but let's just go for it for now, because again, this is just a review. Obviously, number equations got thrown in there without checking the answers first, so apologize for that, but it's okay. The technique is still valid. We'll go with it. How about here? Again, it's kind of a puzzle. You got to figure out, what do I know? What do I got to figure out? What can I figure out based on the information I have? I know I have a right angle there, and part of it's 20. So what's the other part going to be? Yeah, 70. That's easy. How about for x? I have two x's in there. Can I just set them equal to each other? Well, no, because obviously one's obtuse and one's acute. They're not the same. What can I do? Sure. There we go. So that's 3x plus 30 is 180. So 3x equals 150. So x is 50. It's pretty straightforward. But I think the thing that you're seeing is every problem here requires a little different thought process. We got to go, okay, what do I know? What facts do I know about triangles? And how can I apply them? That's where it gets interesting right now. ABC congruent to DEF. So, how can I figure out x's to start with? Well, AC corresponds to DF, right? We're told that. And I have x in the equation for both of them. So, add them up to 180. First off, why would I not add them up to 80? Those are not angles, are they? Sides don't add up to 180. Okay, angles add up to 180. I always get somebody who confuses that. In fact, I always get 3 or 4 people who make that mistake on quizzes and tests. They'll try to add the sides up to 180. Sides don't add up to 180. Angles add up to 180. Make that distinction. So you get 5x plus 7 equals 2x minus 5. And we just do our algebra. And again, I get 3x equals negative 12. So x equals negative 4. We'll just go with it. How about y? Y has to be 38. Why? Because angle C corresponds to angle F. Okay? Which means they have to have the same measurement. Now, what's going to trip people up on this test, on this quiz? What's going to trip you up is if you do not know your different theorems and formulas for triangles. So let me quickly summarize some stuff for you here. Okay? Just going to draw a quick triangle here. Okay? Some of the very basic things that we know. The interior angles of a triangle add up to 180. the remote interiors equal the measure of an exterior. Those are two very basic formulas that we need to know. For isosceles triangles, okay, the sides opposite the angles are the congruent parts. Every side is opposite an angle. So if I'm given congruent angles, I can conclude congruent sides. If I'm given congruent sides, I can conclude congruent angles. What if all three sides are the same? What does that mean about all three angles? What if I have a triangle where all three sides are exactly the same? Okay, then the angles have to be congruent as well, right? All three of them. And since all three add up to 180, 180 divided by 3 is 60. Okay? In triangles, congruent angles give me congruent opposite sides. If all three are congruent, then all three are congruent. Anything that's isosceles, or that's equilateral is also equiangular. Not enough caffeine yet this morning. Mouth not working properly. All right. So that just summarizes a lot of the stuff. I mean, really, that's a really quick summary of some of the stuff we did. The other big thing is corresponding order. Okay. So, and we've already talked about that when we give a congruent statement, it is in corresponding order. So if I'm given something like, you know, A, B, C, D is congruent to P, Q, R, S, I don't need any picture even based on that statement alone. I can tell you that angle B is congruent to what other angle? Q. And if I did a diagonal even, BD would have to be congruent to QS. Okay, BD, QS. Okay, corresponding order. That's really super helpful. I don't even need the picture. So, I know that some of this stuff was done, you know, a week and a half ago before break, and it may require a little bit of extra review. So make sure you're going over it. The test is going to look very, very similar, or the quiz, it always does. So if you know how to do the stuff on the review, you'll probably be fine with the quiz, and the numbers will probably be nicer. All right? Sorry for the couple of messed up numbers. And like I say, when you're throwing a review together, sometimes that happens. All right.